Morning. It's Thursday, December 7th at 9 o'clock. We're going to start our Personnel and Finance Committee meeting. And we're calling it to order at this point, and we're looking for public comments, item 2 on the agenda. One thing that I was made aware of as I came in.
You got a comment over there.
Yeah, I know we do.
Public comment.
You want to say something about Mr. O'Brien?
No, I want to say something about, subsequent to our county board action upgrading county board supervisors compensation. I realized that we were remiss in not at the same time upgrading the compensation for citizen members of county committee, commissions, boards, and other entities. So I'm bringing forth the ordinance amendment to upgrade per diem compensation, and the adjustments are modest and ought to be affordable to Winnebago County. There were no copies of the resolution on the committee agenda online, and I prepared copies for folks that would want to see that or want to make copies. But I've been advised that yes, that it's been.
Mr. Eisen, it's item 9 in our agenda, and it does have, we do have an ordinance, a copy of the ordinance before us.
That's fine.
I'd like to make a comment before we get too far along here in public comments. We lost a gentleman, Pat O'Brien, who had a 41-year career in the county. And he passed on November 30th. He was a supervisor on the board from 2006 to you say 2000, 1982 to 2010. And he was the chairman of the solid waste board from 2006 to present. He just recently left us, and I think we ought to pay a moment of silence to his passing. And we'd all just kind of say a silent prayer here for him. Okay, let's go on with public comments. Any further public comments? Anybody else on Zoom? No public comments out on Zoom. So I'll close the public comments and we'll move on. Don?
I move to approve today's agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, I can't, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Everybody else.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Minutes? 8 minutes. Want to do the minutes?
Pardon?
Approve the minutes.
I'm gonna do
I
sorry.
move to approve the minutes.
Second.
And you.
I was here, I'm sorry. I was thinking I wasn't. I was thinking of the board meeting, sorry. I remember now. That's all good.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye, 5-0 on the minutes.
Wait, I just have one. I was gonna ask this ahead of time, but the number's 5. Is that, I mean, capital projects or should it be capital improvement?
That would be capital projects.
Okay, thank you.
I forgot that. Steve, you made the second on that, on the minutes. Yeah, okay. David and Steve in the minutes.
Yep.
Okay, next is Paul Kaiser with a report on finance. That would be the reports that we brought in, along with any other comments that he wishes to make on finance.
I will, briefly go through the CFP for capital projects. If you have, any questions specifically, let me know.
You're not being picked up by the owl, like, you raise the voice.
If I, can answer them, I will, or else I'll reach out to the directors. We did reach out to them to get some updates. The ones in green are the ones that have had money spent since the last meeting. Even though albeit not a whole lot of money, for the residence facility. According to Mike Elder, that one is, I believe, starting, they got the trusses in finally. So they do have the trusses to get started with construction. The boat landing, that is pretty much getting complete from Adam, who I believe is behind me. If you have any more or questions from him, the last thing they're gonna put in is they're putting in cameras, at Grumman. So they got all the wiring and everything ready for that, so the cameras will be the last thing to be installed for the boat landing.
Is that included in what they've already borrowed? And is that included in our dollars?
They had that in there, but they had additional, they didn't spend all the money, so they could do the cameras now, so they're added cameras at the end because it was less than what they figured, so they could do the camera.
Yeah, they're not gonna post another resolution.
No, they're not asking for more funds.
Okay.
The community parking lots, they are done with what they're doing. I believe there will be other requests, as I discussed with Steve Bender, or Supervisor Bender, and he has made comment about how half of them were done because we did them late. Yes, we know that. Adam's putting together a big plan with the county executive for the Parks Department, and if you guys want him to, I think they're still working on that. And that'll probably be part of the capital projects plan coming up in January for presentations and approval in January 17th. So the Walcott Creek Dam, that one had some money still spent, that's in the design and gonna be moving into. I'm sure there's a request in the new capital projects plan for that. There is grant money that has not been fully finalized that I'm aware of yet, but we have kind of been designated to receive grant money for that project. County Road F has basically been completed, I believe, it's pretty close to being done. With the 700,000 that was spent. And same with County JJ. So that one is going to be coming in on budget. And the hangar facilities are done. I believe there's still some outstanding invoices on that because everything seems to go slow when you're dealing with the Bureau of Aeronautics. So we'll probably be looking at closing that project in 2024.
Paul, JJ and on F, those are being invoiced, or are you waiting for invoicing, or is there some?
I believe there is some more invoicing to be done on that. And then there's also some state money to be getting back from the state regarding what they're going to contribute. So that'll probably have more information coming as we close year end. So I'll probably have more of an update in the January meeting. I'll see if Bob can come and address some of them issues. See exactly where we are and where we're closed. And I know he had I believe he has a meeting next week with Radke regarding the other road project that we've discussed a lot. So he's gonna let me know what's going on with that and what is the plan of attack. I guess Radke is looking at completing that for us now. So we'll know more next week after that meeting. And then the last one is the highway building that they're doing some work on. I know we all know about that one. So, I believe we're gonna be asking for additional funding to complete that in the 2024 plan. And, they'll probably be in, I forgot what Jill from Highway said. She said they'll be in a shelter while they're fixing that building. So she's hoping it's not winter, but it probably will be, so.
I was at the facilities meeting, and that entire building's gotta be gutted out, so there'll be nobody working in there. I mean, I would think that they would get started at that till sometime in March or April, but yeah, they'll be working out of a job trailer in the parking lot.
Yeah. And then the Spirit Fund, basically the last board meeting, they approved the fire association for the 2.1 million, the Christine Ann Center for 500,000. And St. Vincent de Paul Pantry for 500,000. The one on here that is not on here is the Sheriff Potts that was approved for 314,000. So then were additional Spirit funding projects that were approved by the board. And the next Spirit Fund meeting is next Thursday, I believe, the 14th. So if anybody wants to go there, you're aware of that. So that's capital projects for this month. And I kind of want to dive into investments a little bit. We got the front page, which is basically showing the total amount of investments we have with $179 million. Basically investments including cash, money market accounts. So on page 2. On page 2 is basically breaking out the amounts. I just kind of did a trend to show from end of last year to November of this year. We had investments of 132,000. We are up to 132 million. We're up to 178 million. With the non-cash investments going from 110 up to 129 million. So you can see where our money market started at about 22, went up to 61, is down to about 48 million right now. In the money market, that also includes the Spirit Fund money in that $48 million. Basically, the next one on the bottom of the page is just showing the change in interest rates where we started. For basically non-cash investments of 1.76, we're up to 2.63, so we went up almost 1% there. We went up a higher percentage in the cash because the money market just skyrocketed, where some of the other investments are 5, 6, 7 years at 0.5%. So that was what the ongoing interest rate was at the time.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It went from 61 to 40, not because of, it's because we took money out for the Spirit Fund, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And other
Just want to make
projects
sure.
that have been, other projects that have been. getting
Right,
approved
right.
that they
Yeah,
seem
because
like-
that's where the money comes out of,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a huge jump from, well, the 22 to 60, that included the 30 million, right?
Right,
But still, that's a nice, that's 8 million in difference. That's excellent, so, thank you.
so then, basically what I did is I showed for the 11 months, the, basically the investments that have matured. So what this is showing you is that in the 11-month period, we had $19.5 million that have matured. And we're earning a 1.14% interest rate. So that is the amount that we reinvested, and if you go through the next 3 pages to the end there, it is showing that we have reinvested $40 million versus the 19 that came and was matured. And we're earning a 4.05% rate on that. The one thing that the rate does not show you is if you look at the third from the right column, the 40.6 million compared to the 39.6 million. That's $1 million difference of cost. So we bought several of these investments under par. So we will be getting $1 million of additional profit or interest, but it doesn't show as interest, it shows as gain when they mature. So that 4.05 actually goes up to like 4.2 is what we're gonna actually be earning for that. So that is what we've, been trying to get the money out there. The thing right now is that you've seen the money market came down from 60 million down to 48 million. And it's like trying to balance what cash flow we have. As we know, the Spirit Fund has spent more money. We spent 2.1 and another million, and we have some more projects coming up. So it's balancing the amount of cash we're gonna need for that, the amount of cash we're gonna need going forward for operations. And it also shows on the back page that we will be having $20 million of investments coming due. And it breaks it down by quarter with 5 million, 5 million, 7 million, and 3 million basically coming due. So that is money that I want to make sure we get reinvested. And also some additional cash, hopefully to get reinvested, because we all know that the tax bills will come in January. But then again, we have to send the money out in April and August, so January and June are big intakes. April and August are big outflows, so it's trying to balance when when the county's investments are coming due, that we have the money to send out to who we have to send out to, and when it comes in, we can make more investments. So I want to do more investments because I started, which I forget which page it's on. I think it's on on the second page, page 2 of 6. If you look at that one, it kind of shows you the investments we had. Where we had CDs, we cashed in the compound CDs, because then we're at like a 0.05% interest rate. We bought a few corporate bonds, we bought some FFCB bonds and home loan bonds for like 5 million more. But on the bottom two, I'm actually starting to look at treasury notes and treasury bonds, because they're actually starting to come up closer to the municipal bonds and the home or mortgage-backed securities. So they are very much more liquid and very much more easy to get rid of if we need the cash. So I'm trying to transition into looking at US Treasury notes and bonds. They're at about 4.6% now versus 4.8. So for the 0.2, it's not worth it to not go into them versus going into the more risky and better interest rates. But the gap is closed. So now I think now's the time for us, the county, to invest more. Because I have a feeling by end of 2024, interest rates are gonna plummet. At least that's what I'm being told. So that's my report.
Got one question. I didn't see the board house on this report for the capital improvements. I see they're starting to build it, but I don't see it on here. There must be money left to pay for it, because all they got up is the shell.
Yeah, I will check why that's not on there, but yeah, it should be. It has not been closed.
No, I mean, by next month it should be. They're working on it as we speak. Well,
Yeah, but even if it's completed, it takes a while. If it could come, get closed and,
Like the T hangers.
yeah. So I will check where that one is and why it's not on there. I know the one was meant for the Spirit Fund, but I didn't catch the boat out.
Thank you, Paul. Next on our list is item 6, Ms. Bremer. Bill, good morning.
Yes, I'm here before you today, asking to increase our cremation permit fee from 160 to 170. This is our only stream of revenue. In 2024, I do have the numbers, that our autopsies, are gonna be going up depending on what type of autopsy or what type of case. Anywhere between $100 and $300 per case, as well as an increase, numbers to our toxicology. So, along with everything else, supply wise, that's going up.
Any questions?
I've got a question. I know years ago, when we had to pay for the cremations, we paid 500. What are those up to now, comparison?
They're still at 500.
They're still, they have never raised them.
They have never raised them, and there's been some concern with funerals. I mean, years ago when I first started in, 2012, I would say if we had maybe 2 indigent cases a year. Now I think we have 6 already this year. So I'm over on that budget as well, because families are having difficult times and they're walking away. So if they are truly, indigent and the family is in a definite, you know what I mean? Or financial difficulty, we will still turn the cremains over to the family. If it's a situation where there are means and they're just walking away, then we usually will.
So how do you prove out their indigency or their lack of money?
TLO, we have access to a couple different government databases. So we're able to check into that. But there have been some situations where funeral homes will say, family came in, they pulled up in a brand new Cadillac or a brand new Mercedes, or they've got, you know what I mean? And they're just, there's been an estrangement, so they're just refusing to be financially responsible at all. And those cases, then, we obviously, if the decedent is indigent and there is no money, then we hold those cremains.
We have a motion.
Move to approve.
Second,
Steve, second. That's a move to approve.
Aye.
We'll get it in a minute. Okay. Take it one by one, or we'll take it all at once.
Aye.
I,
And 5-0. Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, item 7, and we've got that with item 8, Mark.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did you receive copies of the compensation schedule in your packet? Here, just in case. Each year, as you're aware, during the budget process, the board passes a certain amount to be applied towards the compensation schedule for increases to keep in line with market adjustments and such. And this year, the board approved a 2% schedule adjustment for 2024. And so what this schedule does, it just reflects what the board approved in the budget, applying a 2% increase. If you remember as well, in July, we also passed changes to the merit pay system. And so passing the 2% schedule adjustment will also give that same 2% to employees. And that would be in addition to the 2% if they qualify for merit. So if I included some information as far as where some other counties are, but really this 2% along with the adjustments that were made back in March as part of the compensation study will help us just stay in line with the market. So there's no additional funding request tied to this.
Move to approve the resolution.
We're not on that yet. That's it. We're not on that resolution. we're on item 7.
Yeah,
Adopting revision for the.
that's what I was saying, motion to approve the resolution,
Second.
we can discuss.
Okay, it's on the floor. We have adopting resolution of revisions to the county compensation schedule of 2024. I do have some questions as well. This is the merit increase, or is this the
No.
compensation increase?
This is the compensation schedule adjustment.
Adjustment.
So, yep, so this will move up the minimums for all the positions, 2%, the maximum is up 2%, all the points in between 2%.
Avoiding a compression that you would get if you didn't do this.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody have questions? Are you done? No questions? No questions? Want to vote?
I,
Aye. 5-0. Okay, so we're on adopting the unclassified position pay schedule.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The unclassified positions pay schedule, as this committee is aware, typically comes before you once each year. And this is different in that instead of the compensation schedule that we just addressed was for regular positions. These are for unclassified positions, which include temporary, casual call, part-time employees, and a few other unclassified positions such as bailiffs and reserve deputies for the sheriff's office. Last year, we had made some changes regarding wages that we paid to Parkview employees. We went away from a fixed dollar amount or fixed dollar range to moving them to minimum top of A. So we gave a range. For the nurses and the LPNs, we in essence did the same thing, but we had a few employees that were slightly above the control point, which is why we didn't specify control point last year. But having that range has worked well at Parkview, gives us a little bit of flexibility. And so ultimately, what I'm proposing is following that in that same vein, where I sent a highlighted copy that shows all the changes. And I'd suggest that we look at moving our seasonal positions to the minimum, to the control point of grade 56, which is the lowest grade within the compensation schedule. That will allow us, number one, each year, as the compensation schedule increases, we'll be staying in line, with seasonals. It also, because we would have a range, we wouldn't necessarily have to specify on this document differences for if seasonals are coming back a second, third, fourth year or more, as well as we've had some challenges with different departments hiring seasonals for a variety of reasons, either because of the nature of the work, perception of more difficult work, things like that. So it'll give the departments a little bit more flexibility, where we might hire seasonals for a particular department a little bit higher than another if we can't find anyone. The bailiff position, that was passed back in February, that increased from $80 a day up to $100. And at that time, we also talked about putting it back on the unclassified schedule, since that's really what it is. It's an unclassified position. With the recent increase, not making any recommendations to increase that. Some of the positions that are being crossed off, like intern, office assistant, or co-op student, the way we hire, we typically line the type of work that's being done up with a similar position on the compensation schedule. So we would still be able to hire those positions, but it would be more in line with if there's a similar position within the county that it would be tied to. So it's not that we wouldn't necessarily have those, we just have a different mechanism where we wouldn't necessarily have to label it, co-op student or office assistant. And then speaking with the sheriff, every year we take a look at the reserve deputy pay, and proposing doing the 2% increase to the reserve deputies. And then some other changes, as you'll see in the other positions, changing some wording. We've run into a couple situations that we've been fortunate so far, but I'd like to solve by making some adjustments. So the first situation is when we hire a casual call employee back, let's say someone retires from the county or they leave the county for some reason, but they have a skill set and they want to work in a casual capacity. One example is we have a casual call dispatcher at the sheriff's office. So in that case, this allows us to bring that employee back and pay them the rate of pay that they were paid when they were a regular full-time employee. However, they're not eligible because they're casual call for the regular merit system and merit raises and things like that. So the issue that we've had over the years, and it's not limited to the sheriff's office, we run into the same thing with particularly CNAs at Parkview. But in this case, we have an employee who there's no mechanism to increase their pay at all because they don't qualify for merit. And prior to making the revisions we did in July, the only raises we had were based on merit. Now, under the new raise policy, we have the schedule adjustment that's applied to employees as well as merit. So to address that and be able to keep some of those experienced casual call employees, I think it would be prudent to give us the ability to apply the schedule adjustment to casual call project temporary employees. The other issue that we've run into is when we hire a project employee, we typically hire project employees for one of two reasons. Either there is literally a specific project, we have a task, definitive start and end, and we just need additional help to accomplish that. It doesn't require adding a regular position to the table of organization, but it's a project that's expected to last longer than 6 months. So it's not a temporary, we bring it in as a project. The other reason why we hire projects would be, for instance, let's say a department is looking to start a new program and they need the data to justify making that program permanent and adding positions permanently to the table of organization. So what they'll do in that case is they'll bring on a project employee or employees. And during the time that the project's working, that's where they're seeing, is this program working as intended? Are there changes? Are the staffing levels right? Prior to bringing, a solution forward to committee and to the board for ultimate, approval. The issue that we have right now is that this currently allows us to pay a project position 85% of the minimum pay for the position up to the minimum. We've had several projects that have been difficult to fill because of being able to pay no more than the minimum. So the example I cited in my agenda item report is back in 2022, when Human Services was looking at bringing the shelter care program in-house instead of contracting with a vendor. Human Services didn't run that program at the time. They didn't have a facility. They didn't have policies. They didn't have licensure with the state to run that program. They hadn't done any, audits or inspections or any of those types of things. All they had was created from the ground up in order to bring that in-house and take the program over. So we ended up hiring a project position. In that case, we were able to find someone from another county who had experience running 2 similar buildings, doing the licensing, the policies, the audits, inspections, all of that. But again, we were limited at the minimum. For a variety of reasons, that employee still came here when the position ultimately went to a regular position. Then we were able to offer a more market competitive rate. But my concern is that if we limit it solely to the minimum, we're also limiting the experience and expertise of our candidate pool that we might be recruiting. So in order to address some of those, that's why I'm suggesting that we change that to being able to pay those positions from 85% of the minimum instead of to the minimum up to the control point. So those are the major changes and the explanations why. There are several department heads here as well. If you have specific questions regarding, especially seasonals and difficulty recruiting, we did do better last year recruiting seasonal with the increase in pay from $13 an hour up to 15. But we still ended up having fewer seasonals than what our goal was. And then also was in just a clean copy. If you approve this as highlighted, this would be the final version.
I'd like to move to,
Uh,
are we, should we make a motion first?
Can I get a word in edgewise here, please? On the other positions, this is what you were talking about.
Yeah.
As far as the 85 up to
Yeah,
the control point. Okay, and so the crossouts on all of the minimums and whatever is the purpose of that.
correct.
Yeah. Want to go ahead and make your
I'd like to
motion?
move to approve the proposed unclassified positions pay schedule.
Thank you, Steve.
Fair question.
Go ahead and make a question.
Do we contact, like when an employee retires, I know we can't ask them if they want to come back right away, they have to be a 30-day separation. But do we send them a letter then after that? Like I know the highway department's down 5 plow drivers right now. And there's people that retired that I talked to that said, well, if they ask, I'd probably come back. But they don't ask. So would it be something, and then if we would bring them back, what would they come back at? At the 85%, or what would the pay structure be, I guess?
First of all, it's 75 days separation. But then, yes, departments reach out. Typically it'll be the departments, because when the department has the shortage or the need and they know who's left, certainly, we've had departments reach out. This allows a returning employee. So if we had someone retire as a highway operator 1, for instance, they could come back at their last rate of pay.
Okay.
So they wouldn't be limited in that case to either the minimum or if approved the control point. Right now, part of that is we can pay them their last rate of pay.
Cause I know the mechanics, they're like 3 mechanics short, 5 operators short. And I truly believe if they were contact some of these people that retired, they would come back. And, they don't want to work full time, but they work a few hours, and help out. So it might be something that you want to talk to the department heads that, after the 75 days, you can just send a generic letter out asking if they would be willing to come back on a part-time basis. And it's either yes or no question.
Good idea.
Dave, do you have a question? Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is item 9. Mr. Eisen, you want to give a quick presentation of your interest in the amending the code section 1.212, paragraph 10, to increase and expand the citizen member compensation on committees, commissions, boards, and other entities, as well as the Board of Canvas citizen member compensation. Do you have anything to say?
I've said everything I have said,
Giving you an opportunity.
public section. I would refer, any questions in respect to Board of Canvas members to our county clerk, who's worked with them, for decades. Justify the increase, for those, committee members. I think the, salary, given, approved for supervisors, the board of supervisors speaks for itself in respect to, the need, to recognize and, fairly compensate, the citizen members of our committees, commissions, board, and other agencies.
I might want to point out the physical note on the bottom. Going from the expenditure in 2024 of 23,000 to the expected increase of 34,500. It's a $10,000 increase from one to the other. Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to put it on the floor? And then, yes, Don?
I moved, for ordinance to amend the Winnebago County General Code, section 1.210.
Second from Dave over here. Go ahead.
So I was on the compensation, I know you mentioned earlier, I was actually on the committee along with, Steve here, and we did not, I know you mentioned that we didn't address it, but we did address it because it wasn't in our purview of what we were supposed to do when we were working on that committee, so that's why we didn't address it. Secondly, I am absolutely not for this, only because, we are one of the few, government agencies that even pay for these positions. Most do not. Cities, municipalities, boards, school boards, they do not pay their citizens for anything.
It's absolutely voluntary.
It's absolutely voluntary. So for us to give any type of compensation, I think is a big, yeah, I don't even agree with doing it at all, but, to increase it, I am absolutely not for this. Just because I sit on planning committees for the city of Neenah and so forth. I've never asked for a dime. It's all voluntary. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Any other questions, Dave?
I'll just comment that we did talk about this and that was the consensus of the committee is most are volunteers. I mean, I would think it, like ours had to go to the public safety jurisdiction and then it came to, and it's not on here that it went to public safety and jurisdiction, and that's where we sent ours, and then from there it came back to us, and then it went to the county board. So if this is gonna move forward, I would make a suggestion to send it to
Go there
JPS.
first. Yeah. One of the reasons why it was sent here, at least what I was told, is because it's dealing with the dollars. It's not making a major change to the, to the way the ordinance of the ordinance is structured, okay? But it is dealing with dollars and increasing dollars. And that's why it would come here first and then to JPS. We can
And
send
then
it
one
over.
on JPS's schedule for this month.
I called Stafford and I talked to him about it. He will put it on the schedule if we want to send it back to him. So,
I mean, that would be I'd make a motion to send it back to JPS and have them discuss it.
Second.
And then send it back to us.
okay. The original motion was to accept it. And now you want to send it to JPS, okay? Send it back to JPS. And then review it.
We have to vote on it.
Can I just-
Go ahead, yeah.
So this was brought to JPF by Supervisor Eisen. And then it was decided to be pulled because it was gonna go to PNF. Because obviously it has a monetary component, just so you're all aware. It's not as if JPS never had its eyes on it. It did, but again, Supervisor Eisen was the author of it. And based on our conversation, he opted to pull it so that it would go to your committee first, since this is a dollar and cent issue.
Well, right now, it sounds like most of us are gonna vote no, the way it sits. So should, if we wanna keep it alive, we gotta send it back, correct?
I think if we voted because it's a dollar amount, we're not doing it any damage. We're actually doing it. We're doing it a favor because it's not gonna go to the board to be, re-voted on if it dies here.
So if we vote to send it on, we're helping this along
Yes, you are
temporarily.
and JPS can send it on down the line, as
But
a,
as she just said, JPS sent it to us.
I know, but they didn't vote on it.
Well, and I should say, this is owned by Supervisor Eisen. This is his resolution. This was not JPS's resolution.
Right,
So, he is the one that would bring it forward, and obviously for transparency, he was bringing it here.
If we voted this down, the original motion, it could still go to JPS.
no, we'd have to send it to JPS, we'd have to.
I mean, but if we say we vote it down, the original. My question is, do we have to send it to JPS or can we vote on the original?
If we vote on the original and as it appears it's going to die, it will die. If we say we're referring it to JPS, then we refer it to JPS and allow it to live another day. It's up to you. Yes.
A question for Mary Ann, if he can still, Supervisor Eisen can still present it to JPS.
Without,
Can't he? I mean, if he wants to, I'm not saying he should or vice anything, but he could still, because it's his resolution, he can
That's
still,
right.
even though it does not pass here or it does pass here, he could still, on his own, as a supervisor, present it to JPS.
Yeah.
If Supervisor Stafford
Allows
allows it. Gotcha, okay.
let me get my 2 cents in here. If we decide we're gonna vote it down, Mary Ann will take our name off of the bottom of this thing. Our Personnel and Finance Committee name off of the bottom of this thing, and it will go to JPS for Mr. Eisen. If JPS were to have voted on it and given us a vote to give us some headway as to where it wants to go, all right, we would have had that to use on here, but we don't. So I think what we need to do is either refer it or vote it down.
I'd rather, send it over because I don't feel I have enough information right now to vote yes.
Are you all in agreement there?
Oh, yeah, man, just a comment is when I was asking for the ARPA commission and the diversity affairs commission to get paid, I had to go through JPS first, then personnel finance, and then to the county board.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we defer from a different strategy when that's the one that we had used in the past. JPS, if they want to vote it down, they can still send it to us and we can move on it. But that was the procedure I was told that I was supposed to follow. So I don't know why we would veer from it now.
Steve, if we sent it over to JPS, it wouldn't come back. It would either die at JPS. It would not go to the board. Okay, that's the way.
No,
No, it wouldn't,
that's not true, though. If we send it to JPS, they could vote yes or no, and then it could come back to us.
Well, may I, 7.6 of your rules says any committee of jurisdiction may submit to the county board a request which has been rejected by Personnel and Finance Committee. However, this request resolution must have a 2/3 affirmative vote of the county board membership for adoption.
yeah,
So typically, when you're amending an ordinance, it's just a majority vote. But again, based on this rule, if this was rejected and then it went to JPS, then it would say that you would need a 2/3 affirmative vote of the county board. But again, this is owned, this is not, this is owned by Supervisor Eisen.
Right. Just a comment that, if we vote now on if we're gonna send it to JPS or not, I am going to vote no, because I would rather nip this in a bud today, and that's why I'm voting no, so.
Thank you. We are voting to refer it. Or we're voting to vote it down and let Paul Eisen take it to JPS if he wants to.
So which,
Which one are,
We're voting, if we're voting the original motion. So let's to accept it, okay? You're gonna either vote that or withdraw the
I
motion,
withdraw my motion.
okay? Then the motion now goes to refer to JPS. Who's gonna set that motion and set that?
then I would like to make a motion, to vote for this. The original then, if he's withdrawing his.
He would.
You second.
Okay,
Well,
so excuse me, I'm sorry, Supervisor Nussbaum made the motion, and then Supervisor Albrecht seconded to approve the ordinance and like bring it
Or bring
forward.
it forward, yeah, not approve it, just bring it forward.
And then Supervisor Bender and Supervisor Nussbaum seconded to forward it to JPS for approval.
so that's the one that's
That's,
on the table right now.
And then I'd like to make,
Drawn is what's confusing me.
and then I would like to make a motion to vote on the original amendment. Or resolution, sorry. No, resolution, ordinance, sorry.
Just a second. All right,
So you thought, someone moved to put this on the floor. That was Supervisor Nussbaum.
right.
And seconded by Supervisor Albrecht. Then you, Supervisor Bender, moved to refer this to JPS and Supervisor Nussbaum seconded. Okay, and then you moved to
Withdraw.
withdraw your first motion.
And then me, I'm putting the motion for the original back on the table if somebody will second it.
We need,
Well, you
we
don't have it.
need to do one thing at a time,
Okay,
because this is like a salad.
all right, I'll wait then.
You don't have a second on that particular.
Well, no one was asked,
Okay,
so
so let's go in order. First, the motion to withdraw, and who seconded it?
That was Mr.
Supervisor
Albrecht.
Albrecht.
Mr. Albrecht,
So then that motion.
that motion's withdrawn. Okay,
unless he wants it.
no, that motion should be withdrawn.
Well, get to take a vote, see what they want to do.
Do we withdraw it? You wanna vote on it right now? To withdraw it?
Well, Don
I withdraw.
He withdraw. He
But then you
withdrew.
asked,
So it's
and Dave, are
withdrawn.
you okay with withdrawing?
Sure.
Okay,
That's taken care of.
that's taken care of. Now we're looking at referral.
Right, that was the second
We'll
one.
do that one first then.
The referral was Bender,
Yes.
and who was your second?
That's
Don's second. Okay, to refer. So we're gonna vote on that now.
I'm a no, because I want to get this over
Oh,
with.
that's fine, that's fine. Just hold your no for a minute. Okay. Everybody wants to refer it to JPS? Those, raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, so we got 4 and a 1 no to refer it to JPS.
I'm on it now.
Motion by Steve, seconded by.
Yep.
Nussbaum.
Yep.
Okay, and it was a 3-4
4-1.
4-1, 4-1 vote. Get my bookkeeping straight here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh. So this, we have a presentation regarding, really both of these resolutions. One is, for 2023, the first one, resolution, number 10 and 11 is for 2024. So, we had used, the opioid abatement settlement fund from June on through, will be through December, having Solutions Recovery come into the jail and meet with our inmates, do follow-up, do phone calls. It's a very extensive program that they are going to explain in one presentation, but you'll.
Sure, we have two of the same type of resolutions, one for 52 and the other for 60.
Yes.
And the 52 was the one that was brought forward first because it was an earlier year. It was really the 2023 version.
Correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and do you wish to go through the contract as well? Or do we want to just go with the?
I think we can answer a lot of questions by giving the presentation and then I'll introduce Amber Rosick is a lieutenant, one of our administrative team in the jail. She is really on the forefront of this program. And then you will also hear from Megan Edwards from Solutions Recovery, who is also constantly or very often, like every day in our jail and making sure the program is running appropriately. And then Trevor Fenrick from Solutions Recovery is also here to talk about the services that they offer. So I will turn it over to Amber. Goodbye.
Thank you for having us here today. I do have the Solutions Peer Response Team annual report. If anybody's interested in looking in that, the back portion of the report does cover all of the jail statistics that we have with the program. So we'll give you a brief overview of what the program is, and then Megan will speak to exactly what Solutions Recovery is doing for us.
I might need your help, I'm sorry.
I can get over to you.
Sorry about that. No. That's, so I've got it here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, what is the STAR program? This is our sobriety treatment assisted recovery. It is multifaceted. It combines peer support, with medication assisted treatment if they would like. And then the biggest part of it that's been so successful for us is the wraparound services that our Solutions Recovery is providing for us. So it doesn't end when they get released from jail. They have resources out in the community to help keep their recovery successful. So why are we doing this program in the jail? In a meeting with the members of the OFR board and being introduced to Megan and talking about what we could offer in the jail, it was discovered through our discussions that the jail is really a funnel. It's bringing everybody to one place that could use the services. And a high percentage of our inmates have addiction issues, whether it be drugs or alcohol. And when they're in our facility, they are forced into sobriety. They don't have access to those things, so they have to go through that withdrawal process from taking those drugs or drinking alcohol. And it gives them kind of an opportunity to reflect and look at what they've got going on in their life at that time. And a lot of times that's when they find themselves ready for recovery. This may be their rock bottom. They're incarcerated. They don't have access to the drugs to get themselves high. And they don't want to do this. They don't want to go through this. So it's the perfect opportunity for us to provide a service to them. So in July of 2022, we applied for the COSAP grant, which was $150,000 that we could use towards medication assisted treatment. We decided to move forward with that grant to provide Vivitrol injections. Vivitrol is a medication that's used to treat opioid addiction and alcoholism. It blocks the receptors in the brain so that if they do attempt to use opioids or drink, they get no high and they don't get drunk. And it also helps a little bit with the cravings issues. So if they come into jail and they want to be part of the Vivitrol program, they have to go through the withdrawal process with the aid of our HSU. And they have to be there and go through the process 7 to 10 days because they can't start the drug until everything else is cleared out of their system. So this was the one option we decided to go with because it was going to give us the best success in getting them away from the addiction. So we partnered with the Overdose Fatality Review Team and their Solutions Peer Response team to get these guys in the jail to go with our Vivitrol program because it was proven that to be more successful with the Vivitrol injections, you needed to have the support and the counseling and follow up with it. The injections are given once a month. And we knew that once we gave them their injection, they went out the door. We had no control over if they went to get the second dose or if they were going to seek out the counseling that they needed. So we decided to bring Solutions Recovery into the jail to start that process. So our initial response, when we granted the inmates access to the peer coaches, the recovery coaches, was amazing. Megan brought her team in, kind of a trickle-in effect. We posted flyers that gave them access to contact Solutions Recovery through a free phone call through the inmate system. And it was astounding the amount of inmates that responded to this and were really looking for these services. So in May of 2023, we talked to Solutions Recovery about actually having a position that would be dedicated to the jail to help us with this program because we had well exceeded what we had thought we would see with the program. And so we would have somebody that was actually in the jail, in the facility, that would manage all the recovery coaches and also manage our Vivitrol program so that we could meet the needs of the inmates. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And it continues to expand and we continue to see the success. So having that person in there to coordinate the program is essential to keeping the program going. So in the first year of the program, there were 55 injections of Vivitrol that were given to the participants of the MAT program. Solutions Recovery served 399 individual inmates participating in the program. They have had over 2,100 contacts with inmate participants. And in that first year, there were 63 inmates that were provided with community resource connections when they were released. And of that 63, there's still 29 that are in recovery and sober. So we saw a huge success rate with what we were doing. So we want to be able to continue to meet these needs and move forward with the program. So we are going to be adding 3.5 positions of recovery coaches that will be strictly dedicated to the jail to meet with the inmates in the facility. And we are partnering with the district attorney's office and public health and the county exec to make sure that we can fund this program into the future. The program has been funded through grants and through the opioid settlement monies. So when we saw the 46% success rate after the first year, but saw how many individuals had kind of slipped through the cracks or we lost contact with, we decided that we were gonna have to be able to cast a wider net and improve on our services and focus on the wraparound and what we could provide when they leave. And then also making an all-inclusive recovery housing unit within the jail so that they're receiving the support from the people that are going through the journey themselves too. So one of the things that was brought up was the recovery journey was a little bit tough when they were housed with people who weren't on the same path and were constantly talking about using when they were going to get out. So we are working right now to get that pod up and running so that they can all be together and we can offer more groups because all of the inmates will be located in one place and they'll have each other to bounce stuff off of. So the STAR summary for our program so far. So in year one, we secured the COSAP grant. We formed our MAT team. We purchased our Vivitrol injections. We brought the recovery coaches in to begin the peer support. We looked to having the lead recovery coach position. So we had somebody in the jail that was working hand in hand with the DHS SUDS counselor for assessments and looking at treatment post-release. And DHS has been kind enough to come in and run some of the groups for us that even if they're not participating in the Vivitrol part of the program, they're still receiving some kind of recovery services. And then we established a warm handoff at release to those that wanted it to reduce the possible relapse. So when they're getting released from jail, they're going right into the hands of a recovery coach who's transporting them to where they need to be. So for year two, what we're looking at is having that dedicated housing unit for the participants, adding the 3.5 recovery coach positions, having daily groups and counseling through DHS and Solutions Recovery right on pod for those inmates. Also holding classes for other life skills, employment, financial parenting, anger management, stress management. Being able to provide those sub evaluations on pod while they're still incarcerated so we can coordinate treatment at release. Having pod resources so that they can work with staff to apply for or restore insurance coverage. To expand our wraparound services and community resources provided by both of the groups that we are working with, and looking at drilling down data collection so that we can do better reporting for the program. We've added the oral version of Vivitrol, which is a daily pill that they will take while they're in custody, considerably less cost than giving out the injections. And then we did also secure the COSAP grant extension of $250,000 for funding for 2024. We're partnering with the Winnebago County DA's office for an additional grant funding of $70,000, and they will be helping us with our data collection. And I'll turn it over to Megan.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here today. It's always a privilege to be able to talk about our program, especially on these types of platforms. So thank you for your time. So I'm here to talk about the peer response team and kind of a little bit about what Solutions does as who's all familiar with Solutions in the room. Raise my hand. Yeah. Good, great. So I'll kind of give you a little bit more insight on what we do on top of the programming that we do offer in the jail. So Solutions Recovery is located at 621 Evans Street. That is right down the road. We are in the middle of a very, I would say, invasive expansion, which is a good thing because by mid-January, we're going to have more space to be able to provide for people that want help, and it'll be a nice modernized space. So we're really excited about that. We're a peer-driven facility, so all of our staff are people in recovery. Our recovery center is open every single day of the week from 8 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. For anybody to drop in, people that are in recovery, safe place to go. We offer support group meetings. I think we have, 30 a week, probably something like that. Support group meetings, which includes things like AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Crystal Meth Anonymous, Normal Recovery, meditation, yoga, all sorts of different groups that can benefit people in recovery. We have a men's and women's sober living program. That's one of our more robust programs that we have at Solutions. So we have 8 sober living facilities that are all within 1 mile of Solutions Recovery Center for a total of about 45 beds. So that's a primary 6-month program. It's transitional living. So for people that start in residential treatment, like an inpatient stay, typically they'll come into our sober living for a 6-month stay. That's also peer driven, meaning it's ran by people that are in recovery. And they have that shared lived experience with each other. We do offer some clinical services. So my background is actually in clinical mental health and substance use disorder. So I am duly credentialed to the state of Wisconsin to offer therapeutic services. We also have a childcare program. So this is one that I'm really proud of, and I'm really glad that we were able to get started. A big barrier for folks in recovery that are trying to seek services is childcare, and adequate childcare, especially during our evening hours when we have most of our support group meetings that, you know, experience those high volume times. So we have childcare offered 4 times per week at free of charge, and it's for folks, parents in recovery to attend support group meetings, meet with their sponsor, meet with their recovery coach, go to a recovery related event. As long as it's something recovery related, we offer it for them. And we've often been talked about as a safe haven for individuals. We try to maintain safety in our facility. Again, we're open daily. People come there every day for a cup of coffee, to hang out. You know, if they're having a hard day, whatever's going on, usually they're able to meet with some people there that can help support them through that. And that's where our peer response team is housed, which is what I'm really going to be talking about here. So I talked about this peer-driven work, and what that means is the definition of peer is one that is of equal standing with another. So we're all on the same like level ground, right? And so I've done a lot of these presentations in front of very different agencies across all sorts of disciplines, but I'll use an example of law enforcement for this. So let's say you're at a wedding and you are a deputy, police officer, wherever you are within law enforcement, and you start talking to somebody at a wedding and you realize like, oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a police officer. And they're like, oh, I am too, right? So it's like automatically there's this shared experience. It's almost like you don't even have to talk anymore about it, right? Like you get each other, you get what each other has seen, what you've gone through. And that's exactly what we're doing with peer-driven work in the jail and at Solutions. So I'm a person with lived experience. I've been long-term recovery, coming up on 10 years of sobriety. So it's interesting because I kind of have both lenses of the clinical side of things, and I also get to help with peer-driven work, and both have a shared benefit within helping this demographic, right? But I have this experience from using my lived experience, and now it's pretty cool because I get to use it as an asset today. It's one of my best assets, when 10 years ago I was a person that was, you know, taking from our community, taking from, I mean, just constant taking. So when I say it's a privilege to come and speak on these platforms, that's what I mean. It's really cool that I'm placed in a position to be of service to our community today rather than taking. And a lot of us have that experience. So happy to share that. So SAMHSA did extensive research on is recovery coaching or peer-driven work, is it effective? Does it work? And they found all across different areas, improved relationships with treatment providers. I always like to talk about that we're kind of like the glue between systems, right? So there's all these different systems that are trying to help people like us in our early recovery journey, and they all play an integral role in our recoveries. But sometimes it can be really confusing, right? Like we don't know where to go for treatment. We don't know how to get funding for treatment. The phone calls that we field on a daily basis often are helping with things like that. So improved relationships with treatment providers, we've kind of been through these systems, right? So we can give, you know, advice or give suggestions on how to walk through them, where to find the help, things like that. Increase treatment retention, increase satisfaction with overall treatment experience, improve access to social support. Social support is so important for recovery, and that's a really big piece of it. So when we look at what we're doing in the jail, like we're really connecting people with a bridge to the recovery community. So all of our recovery coaches come from this recovery community, right? We've got hundreds, if not thousands of us that are living sober in the community of Oshkosh, Winnebago County. And that's where the magic happens. But a lot of people don't know we exist. So a big part of what we do is really kind of creating that rapport, that relationship with people that are incarcerated at Winnebago County Jail. And then there starts to be trust built, right? Automatically, because we get each other, number one. And number two, we can pick them up, we don't have a whole lot of red tape in what we can do, which is kind of nice, right? And then we take them to the recovery community, and honestly, the recovery community does what it does best, which is like wraps them around with love and support, and then like they don't need us anymore, and that's how we know that we've done our job. So it's pretty cool. There's reduced relapse,
Nope.
reduced relapse rates, decreased criminal justice involvement, which is hopefully a data point that we can measure long-term is that of recidivism, reduced substance use, and greater housing stability. So our current team has 14 trained recovery coaches, half female, half male. We all have lived experience with addiction and recovery. The peer response team actually partners with multiple agencies on top of Winnebago County Jail. So we partner with OFD, EMS, Day by Day Warming Shelter, Father Cars, Winnebago County Crisis, Probation and Parole, Nova Counseling Services, and OPD. So why the jail? And why all those other places too, right? We are trying to meet people in a place of vulnerability. We are trying to meet people in a place of crisis. When I look at my lived experience with when I came into recovery, I didn't come into it because like life was going okay, right? Like usually it takes something pretty significant for somebody to reach out and say, I need help. Oftentimes we have to become more uncomfortable and experience more discomfort in active addiction than being clean. And with that, we end up in systems like Winnebago County Jail, EMS, non-fatal overdoses, all those things start to happen, right? And these systems start to intervene with us. So that is kind of our purpose here, is we are trying to capitalize on this window of opportunity, is what we like to call it. And the jail is a perfect opportunity for that because people get clean in jail, right? The drugs, the alcohol get out of their systems. I have lived experience with being in this jail. And I just look at that, and when we were developing this program, like, where do we go and what do we target? And when I looked at my experience, I'm like, that was the first time I really thought about what was going on in my life. Was when I was sitting in booking, right? Scared, didn't know what was gonna happen next. And that window can be really short though sometimes, you know? And I get out and now I'm like, oh, I just like need to not use, right? And there's so much more to recovery than that. So that's what we're doing in this jail, all right? So I always believe that there's two components that need to happen simultaneously in order for somebody to get well, in order for somebody to recover. Number one, the person is willing and ready for change. We need people in the jail all the time that maybe aren't in that spot yet, and that's okay. We're there to plant the seed so that later down the road, when that window comes for them, they have rapport with us, they have trust with us, they call us. And we've been able to see that happening so far within this program is maybe the person's not ready yet, but hey, we've established this trusting relationship. We might be the only person they know that's clean and sober, right? And then 3 months down the road, they call us back and say, my plan didn't work. You know, I'm not doing super hot. Can you help me? And we've been able to help them navigate treatment services, you know, help them get funding for things like that through the county. So, oh, sorry, back up. I apologize. The other component is having this person that's willing and ready. And we oftentimes find that in jail, right? The natural procession of thought when somebody becomes incarcerated is, shoot, what am I doing with my life? And then being met with a resource at that exact same time, So many times we review cases in OFR where it's like so many services were thrown at people, but we're missing that key component of I'm in this window of willingness and readiness for change, and we call that motivation for change, right? And so that's what we're trying to capitalize on in the jail, is those two things happening at the exact same time. And we've seen a lot of people get better, which is really great. So what what we're doing in the jail, right? What does recovery coaching really entail? We can meet with the inmates up to 2 times per week. We do a lot on addiction education. It's really interesting how we can have this lived experience, but not really know what we're up against. And so our recovery coaches come in there and we educate on what they're up against, that it's so much more than just not using or drinking, that it, a lot of the times requires daily action in some type of recovery program, and we're there to help them with that. We do a lot of work with denial, help them develop recovery goals. We want to keep it client driven. We do a ton of resource navigation. Again, we don't know what we're doing in the beginning. We don't know where to go, who to talk to, how to get help, what's the appropriate treatment service for me. We help them navigate those types of things. We do a lot with release planning. Oftentimes when people come into jail, they're not planning on coming into jail, right? Like something happens. So oftentimes the inmates that we meet with still have drugs on them, you know, when they get out, paraphernalia, alcohol that needs to get dumped out, like, we can help with all of that stuff. So those are conversations that we start to have from the moment they come in. It's like, what do we need to do the day you get out? Right? Do we need to get your insurance reinstated? Do we need to go to your house and get things just, you know, taken care of, dumped out, thrown away? Are we getting you into sober living? Do we need to collaborate with human services to get you funding for treatment? All those types of things starts to happen from day one that we meet with them. We do talk about harm reduction. Vivitrol would be one of those considered as harm reduction, as is Narcan. Again, we meet people that maybe aren't done yet, right? So it's like, how do we keep them safe so that they can at some point experience that window of opportunity? We work with the jail as well to do delayed releases. So usually, typically inmates get released at 4:30 in the morning. So instead of being released at 4:30 in the morning, we talk to inmates and say, hey, we can pick you up at 8 a.m. Are you cool with that? Does that sound good with you? We can go down to Solutions, get a cup of coffee, talk about the plan for your day, transport you to treatment, transport you to sober living, wherever you need to go. So we do delayed releases, and right now we're probably at like 1 a week, which is pretty good. We feel pretty good about that. We also offer transportation. So there's other programs within like prisons and things like that that have like a live-in recovery coach, like it's hired within. But once the inmate releases, they can't have any follow-up contact with them. And that's just within policies and procedures of you know, agencies like that. So what I really like that we can do is we can meet them there, and then we say, hey, we can pick you up on your day of release. And some of them are like, really? Like, you do that for me? We're like, absolutely, we'll come pick you up. So we can transport them to meetings, we can transport them to treatment, and then we do a soft handoff to a thriving recovery community, get them involved. We are that bridge. And then provide follow-up care. So providing follow-up phone calls. The data shows that within the first 2 weeks of release from incarceration is where you're at highest risk for a fatal overdose. So when we were meeting with the jail administration about how we can improve our program after our first year of data, that's what we looked at, is how do we provide better follow-up when people get out so that we can maybe catch some of those people that we lost, right, in the first year. Next. So this is kind of what it looks like in the jail. For those of you that are visual learners, I like flow charts. But basically we have several points of access for inmates to be able to get a recovery coach. When somebody comes in for booking, they have like a booking checklist questionnaire that goes over medical history, mental health, substance use, things like that. On every single questionnaire, every single inmate is asked, would you like to be met by a recovery coach? They can put yes or no. We have access to that system, so we're able to see who said yes, and then we refer them on to our coaches. Then we have flyers that are up in certain different places. We actually have one of our sober living graduates who was a house manager for a while. He came into the jail, that's where we met him. And originally he said, I don't want anything to do with recovery. I'm good. I don't want recovery coaches. I'm good. So he put no in the beginning. And then 2 weeks down the road, clean and sober, cleaned out a little bit, started to think a little bit straighter, gave us a call on the free hotline and said, hey, can I be seen by somebody? We ended up getting him into our sober living program. He got on a Christmas day. We got him into our sober living program. He graduated our primary 6-month program, ended up being a house manager for a while for us, and then ended up in our, it's more like a step down transitional even from sober living, which we call sober housing, where residents can live in those facilities for up to 2 years. So that's really more of a housing thing. So the whole wraparound with, we like all these different access points where we're not always just catching people, asking them the question while they're most likely under the influence coming into jail. This is what our flyer looks like. So it kind of just spells out what we all do. It gives our 24/7 peer response hotline. The hotline number is free of charge, which I think is amazing. We didn't want, you know, financial insecurity to be a barrier for anybody to reach out for help. Alrighty, so these are our numbers for the first year, and this is the entirety of our program, but you can see the breakdown between all of our different community partners, and the jail being, of course, the number one that we've had as far as contacts go. So in the first year of our total program, we served 907 unique individuals in Winnebago County. We had a total number of contacts being 4,623. And the contact type breakdown is as follows. So for the jail, we had 1,993 in-person visits. That is in person. Our recovery coaches go in daily to meet with inmates. We had 375 jail calls, so that's about 1 a day, which is great. Our general hotline, which is available to anybody, there were 851 phone calls that we have fielded. We had 230 in-person meetings at Solutions. crisis center, we had 37 referrals, treatment centers, 38, so on and so forth. And then you can see at the end, that big number of transports. We do a lot of transportation. So clearly that's indicating that transportation is a barrier and that we are feeling that need within the community. Alrighty, so this is a substance use breakdown with our participants. And as you can see, alcohol is number one. Number two is methamphetamine, which I'm not super surprised by. I've definitely seen a shift in illicit drug use. It used to be opioids, probably 4 years ago would be more as number one in the illicit drug use category, but now it's really shifting into meth. I have a couple of inferences about that. Number one, we've got fentanyl introduced in our community. People are scared of that, right? And meth is cheap. It's really cheap and it's really flooded our community. So we see a lot of meth use, but still alcohol being number one, cocaine's making a good increase as well. THC is still pretty high. So this gives you kind of a breakdown of what it looks like in our community right now. Okay, so here's our Winnebago County Jail data, and this data is pulled actually through October 30th of this year. That's our most recent data that we've pulled through, looking at the direct connection to a resource. So in about a year and a month, we've served a total of 473 individuals. About 72 of them were still in jail at the time of October 30th. Total release would have been 401. You can look at the charge type. We keep track of that just to kind of see what's going on with the people that we're meeting with. But the most important part is the bottom. So the direct connection to resource upon release, which is 91 total unique individuals. And what that means is we were able to help them while they were in jail to go straight from jail to sober living, straight from jail to residential treatment. No time in between to, get into anything crazy. We find that is the best way to help people. Because sometimes you're like, I need to get my affairs in order. I've got to let my dog out, whatever it is to try to divert from going from straight there to there, right? The disease comes back and starts talking pretty quick. So we feel really confident in what we're doing as far as like a door-to-door type of service. So 91 people we were able to serve in that capacity. 40 of those 91 ended up in residential treatment, which means we were able to get them door to door from jail, right to Casa Clare, right to Nova Counseling, Blanding, Beacon, Mahalas, all sorts of different places. 41 of them came into sober living directly from jail, and 10 of them went to emergency shelters. We were able to help them get into father cars day by day, things like that, especially if the resource was not available or if that's where they wanted to go. So of the 91 participants, this was as of October 30th of this year, 43 of them were still sober, which is 46% success rate of those that we were able to get door-to-door treatment, which is amazing. I mean, I was astounded by that number. That's a great percentage, and we feel very good about that. Of course, we have the others that didn't have that direct resource. Is it because it's a lack of resources? We're trying to capture that data point to see if that's the problem. It doesn't appear to be that though, because if we're in there with somebody and they want the help and they're in there for a couple of weeks, that does help too in length of stay, right? Sometimes we need somebody and they're out the next day, and it's like, well, it takes time to get some of this stuff put into place. But that's where we're trying to create a more robust wraparound service for those folks. So in summary, seeing the success rate of 46% of those that we were able to really have the program work in the way that we wanted it to, we feel really good about. And of course, having the correct players on the team, we want to provide top-notch services, and we're just really grateful that this has been working out and the program has been collaborative with human services in the jail. And we're really looking forward to hopefully expanding into a recovery pod that just makes it a more conducive environment for inmates when they're in jail. I will say that I've talked about the recovery pod in other areas, and there's been some concerns about like, wasn't jail supposed to be, punitive, right? Like it shouldn't be comfortable or things like that. And it's like, I'll just talk about this. Nobody wants to be in jail to begin with, right? Like the freedom of anything is being taken away in any sense when we're incarcerated. But it's like, would you rather the person be sitting there spending time playing spades all day for 2 weeks, right? Because that's what we do. Or would you rather them be spending time on treatment goals, on recovery goals, on trying to get them to never come back to this place, right? On reducing recidivism, on reducing taxpayers' dollars that are going into the jails to support these inmates. And then of course, hopefully with the ideal of having somebody enter into long-term recovery and watch people get their families back and careers back and watch their life transform. I mean, that's the best thing ever. So, but that's also, you know, I love this work. So that's all that I have from the program side of things.
Any questions? And you can ask
So,
any of us.
should we do a motion or do you want us to do questions first?
I think what we probably want to do is get the first item or the first resolution on the floor.
Okay, I'd like to move to approve the, resolution to authorize the use of 52,500.
Wait a minute, no, let's get the first one. I think that would be 52,000. That was the one we started talking about.
That's what I just did.
That
was one I just did for resolution. That's what I just did a motion for.
Second. Got a second? Okay. Steve? And G. It's on the floor. You want to talk? Yeah.
This is exactly what the opioid money is for. Thank you. I'm enthusiastically, can't wait to approve this. And I enthusiastically would love to see more go toward it because this is exactly what this opioid settlement money is supposed to go for. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you.
I would like to comment on your enthusiasm on how you did it. You did an excellent job.
Any other questions?
I have a question maybe for the sheriff. If the inmates want to call them,
Yes,
is that free?
that's free. Yep, they can call anytime, free phone call. I don't remember the number of calls, but it was substantial. Yeah, so, you know, part of this was back in, I think it was 2015. I still stay in contact with this particular girl. She was on the side of the road on 41. We Narcaned her twice, brought her back. And 2 days later, she was dead. I mean, she had agonal breathing. Brought her into the office 2 days later. Her mom and her watched our video of her death. And it made an impact. So she goes through that process of trying to get unaddicted. And I will say that when she came to our jail shortly after that for a drug charge, I didn't know how to get her into sober living. I had no idea. How was she ever gonna know? And that's really what sparked it way back then. And we worked with social services to create a position. But I'm happy to say that she's coming up on 6 years sobriety, has a job, got married, has her kids back. It's like we stay in contact probably once, twice a month. So it works. It really does. And somebody asked me what caused her to work through the addiction. And it was people, I'm not taking credit because there were other deputies that stayed in contact with her too. But it was like, it was a peer support group. We had no idea what we were doing. We weren't addicts, but it was, yeah, we know you made a mistake. You're back in jail again, but let's get you through this, and never gave up. And now she's where she's at. So this really works. We're excited. We are at 42 overdose deaths, and I think there are 9 pending. So we've already surpassed our highest year. These are people that you can see on the screen, and Megan, and you know, there's a face, there's a family, there's a lot of good people that are dying that shouldn't.
Comments? You know, I'd much rather spend the taxpayers' money on recovery than incarceration. And the 46%, the family that you save, you know, if you got a son or a daughter that's an addict, there's nothing more painful than watching them go down to nothing. And if you can see them come back and get a normal life, it's like, what could be better in life, you know? So I applaud for all the work that you do, and I'll definitely support it.
Anybody else? You want to take a vote? That's on, this would be on the first one, which is on 52,500.
Aye.
It's 5-0.
Can I make a motion for the next one?
Let's pass the motion around a little bit here. Anybody else want to step in? No, go ahead, Vivian.
I'd like to, make a motion to authorize the use of 60,000 from the, National Opioid Abatement Settlement Fund.
Second.
Seconded by Don. On the floor, questions? Pretty much the same thing, is it not? But this is for 2024.
Right.
So it won't go into effect until after January 1st. Correct. Okay. What do we say?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anytime. Just want to ask, Sheriff Motts. Is this Sheriff Motts?
Yes.
Has this contract been gone over with?
Court counsel, yes.
So she's approved it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Not here, but yes, yes.
Yeah. Take your word at it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's move on to item 12, which is commendations. Betsy.
Resolution accommodation for, the Tippy Ringwalla.
Yeah.
That has been employed with the Parkview Health Center for the past 27 years, and during that time has been a most conscientious and devoted county employee. And whereas Dipty, Ringwalla has now retired from those duties, and it is appropriate for the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors to acknowledge her years of service.
You want to take the second one as well?
Yes, an accommodation for Jody Wolfgram. Has been also employed with the Parkview Health Center for the past 30 years, and during that time has been a most conscientious and devoted county employee.
You to say.
Right, with braces.
Okay, we have a second. This is for both. Second, Steve.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Item 13 is our next meeting date, and I believe it is January 4th. Is that okay? Agreed, everybody? Good. Okay. David? We're good.
Second.
The second on it.
Julie, I'll have to come back or call because I'm supposed to.
Do you want to vote on that?
Aye.
They agree to do this, what do I?
Just call me or keep it, bring it, I'll come and get it.